Hello?
Good morning, Sue. You wanted to talk to me about the General Practitioner's Guide to Eating Disorders.
Yes, it is all a bit dry on paper, and I wondered if you could help me understand it a bit better. As a nurse, I often get to see patients before the doctors, and wanted to be more informed.
Where do you want to start?
Well, really, with the diagnostic criteria. I understand the DSM, but are there other characteristics I should be aware of, other than weight? And the signs of starvation? How do I find out about the patient's attitudes to food? In pre-adolescence, it's not possible to use the lack of periods. And children are often quite thin, at this stage anyway, as they are growing so quickly.
Good questions. Firstly, I would try and elicit as much information as possible from the family, as well as the patient. Shall I tell you about the characteristics of these disorders? For most patients, not all patients exhibit all these symptoms, but in the majority of cases, there is a common theme.
Yes, please.
Sometimes, physical appearance can be a giveaway. But not always. There is a notion that all eating disorder patients are very thin, dress in baggy clothes, with poor grooming, to hide themselves. However, some eating disorder patients, including boys, take a lot of time and effort with their clothes and grooming. So don't dismiss eating disorder concerns just because the patient presents in a non-typical way, physically.
Okay. You mentioned boys?
Yes, boys get eating disorders too. About 15% of bulimic patients are male and 10% of anorexic patients are male. Males with anorexia can lose a lot of weight very fast, often beginning with trying to get healthy or buffed.
I didn't know that.
Yes, males too. Quite often bulimic patients will appear to be a normal weight and not overly slim. Sometimes binge eating disorder patients are not obese, merely comfortably covered. This does not mean that the strain on their hearts is any less lethal. Sometimes, an anorexic patient can be in the normal weight range and be brought into the surgery by a parent who is concerned. In early or pre-adolescence, a child can have grown but failed to gain the needed weight to remain healthy. This is often missed. You are looking for failure to gain weight whilst growing or sudden changes in weight and behavior. For example, a significant loss of weight in a short period of time. Sometimes adolescents, in particular, stop drinking, as well as restricting their food intake. So, please remember, you don't have to be a certain weight to have an eating disorder.
Right, so they don't have to be very thin, or look obviously unwell. I must remember, this is a disorder that affects both the mind and the body, the whole person.
Yes. It is the patient's mental state that is often the most telling. The DSM talks about distorted body image and abnormal attitudes to food and weight. Quite often, this translates into a patient being obsessed with food. An encyclopedic knowledge of calorie and fat content, weighing and measuring of portion sizes, talking about food, calorie intake, cutting out food groups from the diet. A lot of patients become vegetarians or vegans, for example. A fear of higher fat foods like chocolate, full cream milk, cheese, meats, puddings, anything fried. Foods they would have eaten, quite happily, before they became sick. It is often useful to elicit this information from the patient's family, if you can.
Okay, so I should ask about what they eat, how they feel about their bodies, and ask their family, also.
Yes. An anorexic or bulimic sufferer will often weigh themselves obsessively 2 or more times a day. The focus on weight can be all about numbers, and they often do endless calculations in their head. How many calories is equal to how many ounces of weight? The patients are often obsessed with the number going down all the time. They will sometimes measure their body, width of arms, legs, waist, as well. They may express that they feel fat or huge or gross. No matter their size or weight, it seems that it is often about an ever smaller number.
Right, I need to ask if they weigh or measure themselves. I take it that this does not apply to binge eating disorder.
The signs and symptoms vary from disorder to disorder. Binge eating disorder patients often exhibit the appearance of a lack of control in general, rather than the appearance of strict control as in anorexia. Bulimic patients seem to alternate. The control feelings are symptoms of the disorder. Patients are controlled by their disorder.
Wow. Really interesting.
The patient is often uncharacteristically withdrawn, quiet, and seemingly preoccupied. There is often a lack of concentration and an inability to engage in conversation unless it is about food and calories. Friends and family will often say that a patient has become very isolated and secretive. Alternatively, there can be uncharacteristic aggression and defensiveness. A lot of patients will try and deflect questions about food and eating with, for example, swearing and violent outbursts. Some suffer self-harm as well, so it would be worth checking for physical signs of this. The majority of patients have problems sleeping.
Oh, that must all be very hard for the patient and family.
Yes. A lot of anorexic and bulimic patients over-exercise as a method of calorie purging. This is particularly common with male patients. You should make note of whether the patient is doing regular exercise, a good thing in most cases but definitely not in anorexia or bulimia. The patient may also exhibit signs of anxiety, unable to sit still, jiggling their arms and legs, a compulsion to move, sitting in a strange position, insisting on standing, and that sort of thing.
This is really helpful. Anything else I should watch out for?
It would be good to ask about use of diet pills and laxatives, especially in older patients who have more access to these things.
Right, ask about diet pills and laxatives.
Yes, also, often, obsessive, compulsive traits can manifest. For example, an untidy person may become meticulously tidy, color-code their wardrobe, insist that furniture is not moved, become upset if things are changed. Whereas a formerly tidy person can become very uncaring about their personal hygiene and their surroundings, often becoming quite unhygienic and careless about their living environment. Family will often report these kinds of changes when asked.
Are there specific signs for specific eating disorders?
For anorexia, I would say, things such as an unnatural interest in food, not being available for family meals, an obsession with what other people are eating, anger if pressed to eat, especially if meals are not precisely on time, or if pressed to eat outside mealtimes. Sometimes a new interest in cooking or preparing meals, but not eating them. Often, there is a denying of hunger. Feeling cold all the time, dizziness, and often a general lack of energy and stamina.
And in bulimia?
Much of the above, but it is also worth noting that bulimia patients may rush to the bathroom during or straight after meals. They may empty the bins. Family may find money missing or specific foods, such as ice cream, mysteriously vanishing. They may take to insisting on a toothbrush in the shower, and the family may see signs of purging in sinks, toilets, waste paper bins, or find bags of vomit stored in cupboards, under the bed and alike. The need to purge can be very hard to cope with.
And binge eating?
There will not be signs of purging, but food may go missing from the kitchen and the deep freeze. Family may also notice money or valuables missing. The drive to eat can be insatiable.
This is really helpful. Thank you.
Very good. It was nice to meet you, Sue. We can talk more next time about treatment.
Yes, please.